So, entrepreneurial government. Before we discuss this model of government, entrepreneurial government, there are certain things which we need to understand. First of all, this entrepreneurial government, this model of government, which was discussed for the first time in the book Reinventing Government, the book which was written by great scholars like Osborne and Ted Gebler. So in 1992, this model was discussed in that book, Reinventing Government. But this model of reinventing government introduced in the that book was the outcome of a logical outcome of the developments which had been taking place for 2-3 decades since 70s 80s. Some developments were taking place in the academic world of administration, political science, management. Discussion had begun that can we go for an alternative model of government wherein the equation of relationship between the state and market can be redefined, can be restructured, can be redesigned. Something like this, the discussion was going on, and because of growing inefficiency of public agencies, government agencies, and corruption in the system, many scholars, academicians started questioning the rationality of continuing with the state monopoly and such a prolific or pervasive control of state agencies to provide different goods and services. So throughout 70s and 80s, you will find those theories were becoming more popular, and those governments and political parties were becoming popular who were talking about the necessity of restructuring the model of government or reinventing the model of government, developing new equation of relationship with the state and market. Those theories which were talking about, those theories which were emphasizing the imperatives of having more than one institution, institutional pluralism and competition, widening of the range of choices, maximizing consumer utility, all such developments were taking place, that the reflection of which you can see in the public choice theory and then the new public management. Then in 1992, there comes something like this, entrepreneurial government. This model of government was introduced by David Osborne and Ted Gebler in their book Reinventing Government. So this entrepreneurial government, this model of government or this theory is the outcome of the developments which had been taking place over so many years. So it follows public choice theory, new public management. And if you bring them together, all this theory, public choice theory or new public management or this model of government, all of them are inspired by, more or less, they're inspired by the same principles of economic rationality and some principles of economics. They are emphasizing that the public agencies in furtherance of or in pursuance of greater efficiency, effectiveness, and or to improve their impact quotient, they need to learn a thing or two from the private sector if required. So public agencies need to accommodate those principles, tools, techniques, methods, and the process which have evolved in the world of private sector to the benefit of society, to the benefit of the business and the institutions. Why cannot we learn a thing or two from the private sector? Why cannot we incorporate those ideas in the realm of public agencies to make them more relevant, to make them more efficient? This is something that we talk about in the, they were talking about in the entrepreneurial government. So they belong to this model of government, or the theory behind it, the line of thinking behind it, belong to the same genre of public choice theory, new public management, and now you have here entrepreneurial government. Now come to the detailed meaning of that. When we talk about entrepreneurial government, what exactly entrepreneurial government is? What kind of model of government is this? It's very simple. Government or government agencies to be managed on the basis of the principles of सस्टेनेबल entrepreneurship. और एक दूसरे तरीके से चलते हैं. Who is an entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is an individual who starts some business or some enterprise, who takes risk, who comes up with some new idea, some new product in the market, who takes risk, who makes profit, who tries to develop a sustainable process in the environment so that the process goes on and on, and from time to time he keeps innovating or devising the new tool, technique, method, process, better product, better services to ensure that his enterprise is placed comfortably, it is placed comfortably in this environment, a constantly changing environment. Because we know that every organization is like a system which is connected to the supra system, that is environment. It's connected to the supra system through the principles of dynamism. So an entrepreneur is an individual. Unlike a businessman, there is a difference between entrepreneur and businessman. A businessman is the one who starts a business on some old idea. There is nothing like new. An entrepreneur, unlike a businessman, is the one who starts a business with some new idea, or he takes risk, he makes investment, he organizes, he manages the things. Point clear? So there are some similarity, and then a major dissimilarity is this, that an entrepreneur comes up with a new idea. So element of risk will be more. Point clear? So there are certain principles of entrepreneurship. So the principles of entrepreneurship, what are those principles? That you need to be financially viable. You need to have a clear-cut vision and mission. Okay, you need to ensure that your business, the activities you carry out, it is not in violation of the fundamental principles or ethics or the norms which govern the society at large. It means you have to keep in consistency with the ethical and moral standards of the society. Then you have to ensure that your activities are not going against the imperatives of environmental conservation and protection. So you have to think about people, you have to think about the planet or environment, you have to think about the profit, you need to be innovative and dynamic. From time to time, you keep devising new things, you widen the range of choices, you keep focusing on consumer utility, you have a vision, you have a mission, something like this. So these are the principles of entrepreneurship. बस इसको अप्लाई करना है. If these principles of entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial government expects that these principles of entrepreneurship, these principles are applied to the functioning of public agencies and becomes entrepreneurial government. So entrepreneurial government basically stands for a government which believes in making its agencies, public agencies, government institutions, which expect that institutions, they incorporate the elements of professionalism, cost consciousness, innovation, change, dynamism, the way that we see in the private sector. So application of the principles of entrepreneurship that you see in the private sector, application of those principles to the management of public agencies give birth to what is known as entrepreneurial government. So entrepreneurial government means that this model of government means, actually entrepreneurial government, this model, it does not talk much about what the government should do. It talks more about how the things are to be done or things should be done by the government or government agencies. And then it says that the principles of sustainable entrepreneurship, principles of sustainable entrepreneurship can be applied to the public agencies, so that in their deliverance they reflect that professionalism very much like the entrepreneurs. Why? So as to become more relevant, more efficient, more effective. So even public agencies should treat their citizens as customers. So they should develop client-focused approach. They should have goal-oriented approach. What is clear? In the course of maximizing utility for the society, for the citizens, they need to look after the concerns, environmental concerns. They have to ensure that nothing goes against the necessity of environmental conservation. They have to ensure that they also contribute to the process of accomplishment of social equity in one or other ways. They also acknowledge their social responsibility. This is about entrepreneurial government. Simply because you are associated with government, it does not mean that we can grant you exemption from the necessity of becoming profitable or of becoming professional. So you belong to the government. So you public agencies need to learn a thing or two from the private sector. Either you should not be in the business, and if you have decided to be in business, whether it is education or public health or water or electricity or infrastructure, if you are providing different kinds of goods and services, then subject to few exceptions in other areas, you must respond or you must deal with the subject matter very much professionally. Our ultimate objective is welfare, development, security of the society. If these can be served better, if public agencies become more professional, there is nothing wrong for the public and government agencies to behave like an entrepreneur. So entrepreneur and entrepreneurship is not a negative expression, it is a positive value, positive expression. Public agencies need to incorporate such ideas to become more relevant. This is all about, basically it is all about entrepreneurial government. So you have entrepreneur, then you have entrepreneurship, you have principles of entrepreneurship. As I discussed, principles of entrepreneurship, an application of those principles of entrepreneurship to public agencies to make them more efficient, competitive, result oriented and self-sustaining. बस गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज है, गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज को भी प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप जो है, एंटरप्रेन्योर जो प्रिंसिपल फॉलो करते हैं आपको भी फॉलो करना है, जिससे कि आप और ज़्यादा एफिशिएंट और इफेक्टिव हो सकें. और वो क्या प्रिंसिपल्स हैं, ऐसे हमने डिस्कस कर लिया है, फिर भी आपको एक बार दिखा देते हैं. दीज आर द प्रिंसिपल्स ऑफ सस्टेनेबल एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप. Principles of sustainable entrepreneurship. Sustainable entrepreneurship cannot be sustainable unless it conforms to certain basic principles. Remember, every business, organization, enterprise, it is deeply embedded in the environment where from it comes into existence. So every business, every organization, every institution and individual, all of us are deeply embedded in the environment, and we are attached to the environment, or we are embedded in the environment through the process of input, throughput and output. That is a system theory, you know. An organization comes into existence because of environment. You collect human resource, material resource, ideas, everything from this environment. Some people come from the environment. They come up with some kind of vision. So an organization comes into existence from this environment. They cater to the needs of the environment, and one day, if it fails to maintain its relevance, if it fails to retain its relevance or utility for the society, it undergoes some kind of dissolution and it is lost in the environment. So you have input, throughput and output. These things are there. Same is the case with entrepreneur, or is applicable to public agencies. So an entrepreneur has to be very much innovative or dynamic, because input, throughput, output process has to be in concordance, and this is life. If this process is disturbed, it means it is death. If you have lost the ability to collect input from the environment, you are gone. If you have lost the ability to work on those input, that is throughput, the process, you are gone. And if you have input, you have also the ability of throughput, but you have somehow lost the ability to deliver an output, to deliver the output which is in demand in the external environment. Are getting a point? Then also you are gone. So therefore, the life and death of any organization, any institution, or even an individual depends on this cyclical process of input, throughput and output. Public agencies need to understand that. Just as private entrepreneurs, they know very well that in the competition they cannot survive for long. They cannot survive for long unless they conform to these basic principles. How to remain relevant and how to remain efficient and effective. If you end up losing, if you fail to make any kind of value addition, you have lost your relevance, then you are gone. Point clear? So the principles of sustainable entrepreneurship, it is just not enough to start a business. You have to sustain that, and it is possible when you conform to certain basic principles. These principles of sustainable ownership, entrepreneurship, you need to understand, and these principles are to be applied to public agencies. This is the basic idea of entrepreneurial government. A government, the agencies, Government agencies inspired by these principles. Now, one by one, it's very simple. Triple bottom line. The first principle, triple bottom line, means that one of the important principles of sustainable entrepreneurship, that you have to take care of people, planet, and profit. It means your policies, your programs, your objectives, and the course of action that you have chosen, all such things put together must take care of three things, that is people, planet, and profit. What does that mean? That you have to be financially viable. That point is separately, it is mentioned that you have to make profit, otherwise you won't be able to survive. Without economic force, even a temple, a religious institution cannot survive. So you have to be profitable. And second thing, you have to look after the interest of the planet. Your activities, your functions should never interfere with the fundamental principles which are there to ensure environmental protection and conservation. So you have to be sensitive to planet. You need to be concerned about environmental protection and conservation. You have to make profit, and then you have to look after the interest of people. People are to be treated as customers, not only citizens. Customers, their likes, dislikes, preferences are to be taken care of. You need to contribute in a way and manner that you have to contribute in the process of the achievement of social equity. To that extent you have to go. The principle is a very elevated one. Find the people, planet, and profit. So you have to look after, you have to take care of the need to achieve social equity or environmental protection and conservation, and then the profit making, economic force. Second thing is vision and mission. The principle of entrepreneurship, vision, it is very much like what and how. You should know that what you want to do and what kind of business you're doing. How do you want to see your business, your enterprise, to evolve in future after 5 years, 10 years? There should be vision, some kind of vision. Vision means that you can foresee, you can anticipate things, you can foresee things, that how things are happening 5 years down the line, 10 years, where you want to be. That is your vision. And having vision is not enough. Vision must be accompanied by mission. That force, that motivation, that something has to be accomplished. You have goals, purpose, and objective, which has to be accomplished in time-bound manner. You focus more on goals, you focus less on other kind of small or big adversities. Mission-driven approach. That it is not like just you have a goal, you have a goal-oriented approach. So you have vision and mission. Then financial viability, as I discussed, that this is one of the fundamental principles of entrepreneurship. If you are financially not viable, you cannot survive for long, because finance can be defined as the lifeblood of any organization. The flow of finance, how nicely you manage the flow of finance. Flow of finance, it means, what I mean to say, that it is directly related to the scope of your activities. Finance is so much important. It means any restriction or some kind of inhibition in the flow of financial resources restricts the scope of activities, create number of bottlenecks. And if the flow of finance is managed well, you can expand the scope of economic activities. You can quite easily, you can go for modernization or change, lot many things. So finance is much more than what it is generally perceived by us. Finance is the very lifeblood of any organization. The life and death of the organization depends on management of finance. Most of the organizations in general, undergo liquidation because of poor management of finance. Finance is a centripetal force. It provides for conversion of one type of resources into other, is a common denominator. Through finance, you manage human and material resources. Through finance, you can expand the scope of economic activities. Through finance, you can encourage, you can discourage certain activities. Through finance, you can incentivize one of the kind of activities and operations. It has the ability to coordinate the things. Through finance, you can enforce accountability. I gave you this much of money, and accordingly, you were supposed to carry out such activities. So on the basis of financial management, you can enforce accountability, you can evaluate performance sometimes, you can set standards, Are getting a point? So financial viability is very much important. Otherwise, organization cannot survive for long. Financial viability, then change-oriented approach, dynamism, change-oriented. It means if required, because everything is constantly evolving, new developments keep taking place. So change-oriented approach is the one which keep the organization dynamic. So if resistance is there, the resistance has to be overcome. In general, we avoid going for change because change means lot many things will have to undergo transformation, restructuring. So change by itself brings resistance. But if you have a strong willpower, you are dynamic, you are very much progressive, then you know how things are changing around us and how we have to how we have to overcome that resistance, and we have to go for change. Change-oriented approach is required. Then innovation, you know very well, innovation. One cannot afford to be complacent in this increasingly globalizing and competitive world. So you keep innovating new things, otherwise you become irrelevant for the society. Point clear. Then you have, or innovation is there. Innovation, technique, method, process. It is not only about product. It is also about technique, method, and process that you apply for production. Because through innovation, you can devise ways and means to produce the same quality or better quality of products at a lesser cost of production, and you become price competitive. Your price competitiveness is achieved by you. Therefore, innovation is required for the management of internal operations. And secondly, innovative spirit is required when you interact with external environment. So you can come up with a new product and services. Innovative mind, innovation, innovative spirit. Then you have transparency and accountability. Transparency and accountability is directly related to public trust and confidence. Public sector or private sector. The higher the level of transparency, the higher the level of accountability, the more will be the trust and confidence of the society. Better will be the utilization of resources. There will be greater amount of, higher will be the level of efficiency and effectiveness. So trust and confidence are directly related to the level of transparency and accountability which is achieved. Better deployment and utilization of resources is stakeholders' participation. So those stakeholders is a very broad expression. Your activities, your operations, whatever thing you are doing, you are associated with different groups and communities. And different groups and communities, they are associated with you in different capacities. So all those who affect and get affected by your activities and operations, their participation is also required. Stakeholders, those who are going to be affected the most by your actions, they should have an opportunity to contribute in the decision-making process and to ask questions to enforce our accountability. So stakeholders participation broaden the base of decision making and make it easily acceptable, and it restricts the possibility of friction to a great extent, and again increases the level of confidence. So stakeholders participation, it gives a lot of strength to the functioning of organization. Then you have legal and moral uprightness. Keep within the bounds of law, respect the laws of the land. And then you have to keep within the bounds of moral and ethical standards of the society. Otherwise, you will end up losing that organic connectedness with the society. And if you transcend the boundary of law, you may be prosecuted. It's quite simple. To keep within the bounds of law and ethical moral standards. Remember, the scope of ethical moral standards sometimes may be broader than law. Within the bounds of law, you may be correct, but it is not enough. Sometimes it happens that you are well within the bounds of law, but still morally you are not correct, because the scope of moral or ethical sphere of ethics and morality may be broader than it may be broader than the sphere of law. It is not enough to be correct in terms of law. You have to be correct in terms of ethical and moral standards of society. To continue, and then you have social responsibility. Social responsibility, your responsibility towards society. It is inspired by the idea that organization comes into existence within the society, it caters to the needs of society, and it gets dissolved in the same society. The society is the main force. So when society gives you so much, it provides you input, it accepts your output, it gives you human material resources for throughput and everything, then do not you owe any responsibility towards the society. The idea of corporate social responsibility, the principle of corporate social responsibility is inspired by the same idea. that every corporate entity, any organization, business, it is deeply connected or embedded into the society. For everything you are dependent. That cyclical process of input, throughput and output is run by the force known as society. And you have earned so much of reputation, goodwill, you generate so much of resources. Do not you owe, a sense of responsibility towards that society? So that has to be taken care of morally and ethically. It is sound, and logically also, if you think only in terms of business. From that point of view also, it is correct. So social responsibility, and then you have proactive approach. Proactive approach, you don't wait for the things to happen. You anticipate things in future, and then you prepare for the same. You are not reactive, you are proactive. These are the basic principles of entrepreneurship. Okay, if these principles are applied to public agencies, then public agencies, government agencies will become more efficient, more effective. Okay, as it is said by Gebler and Osborne. So these are the principles of entrepreneurship. To entrepreneurial government, the model of entrepreneurial government, it basically emphasizes the necessity of applying those principles to public agencies. Clear? एकदम सिंपल है. entrepreneurial गवर्नमेंट, पहले entrepreneurship, what are the principles of entrepreneurship, और वो principles of entrepreneurship को आप गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज पे अप्लाई कर दो जिससे वो ज़्यादा प्रोफेशनल हो जाए. ठीक है, आप गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज हैं, इसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि आपको एग्जाम्पशन मिल गया, आपको प्रोफेशनल होने की जरूरत नहीं है, आपको प्रॉफिट जनरेट करने की जरूरत नहीं है. नहीं, आपको प्रॉफिट जनरेट करना चाहिए. ठीक है, आपको एक्सप्लॉटेटिव नहीं होना चाहिए. एक बेसिक डिफरेंस पब्लिक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन, पब्लिक एजेंसीज में और गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज में हमेशा, प्राइवेट सेक्टर में हमेशा रहेगा. लेकिन इसका मतलब ये भी नहीं है कि पब्लिक एजेंसीज जो है वो प्रोफेशनली काम नहीं करें, वो सरप्लस जनरेट नहीं करें. क्योंकि अगर वो सरप्लस प्रॉफिट जनरेट नहीं करेंगे, प्रोफेशनली काम नहीं करेंगे, तो न तो वो क्वालिटी गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज दे पाएंगे और न ही खुद को संभाल पाएंगे. वो हमेशा गवर्नमेंट पर डिपेंडेंट रहेंगे कि कोई सपोर्ट मिल जाए. So every single public agency should be self-dependent. न केवल आपको self-dependent होना है from financial other point of view, but you have to contribute to the resources of the government. What is clear? And Osborne and Gebler finally suggested a 10-point program, for what they call entrepreneurial government. तो आप समझ गए entrepreneurship, principles of entrepreneurship. और ऑसबर्न और गेबलर ने जो सजेस्ट किया 10-point प्रोग्राम कि गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज जो है, गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज कैसे काम करें. उन्होंने फोकस किया हाउ पे, ना कि व्हाट पे. अब ये पॉइंट्स है सिंपल. द फर्स्ट, entrepreneurial गवर्नमेंट एम्पावर्स सिटीजन्स बाय पुशिंग कंट्रोल आउट ऑफ ब्यूरोक्रेसी. तो entrepreneurial गवर्नमेंट जो है एक प्रोग्रेसिव गवर्नमेंट, एक मॉडल डिस्कस कर रहे हैं हम लोग. entrepreneurial गवर्नमेंट इज ए प्रोग्रेसिव गवर्नमेंट. इट बिलीव्स इन रिड्यूसिंग, or it believes in diluting that controlling aspect of bureaucracy, making it more facilitative, making it more interactive with society. So pushing control out of bureaucracy. So it stands for, or it advocates for a bureaucracy which is not so much in the nature of controlling or regulating things. It is more in the nature of managing things very smartly and facilitating things. So pushing control out of bureaucracy, expanding the scope of rights of the people or citizens, and reducing or diluting the controlling tendencies of bureaucracy to some extent, and that bring them in a very good relationship. I mean, say bureaucracy and citizenry, they come in a very good relationship with one another, each other. Then second is entrepreneurial government promotes competition among producers of goods and services. It promotes institutional pluralism. There should be more than one public and private agencies competing in different areas of activities. So healthy competition should take place. Government should manage that competition. Threshold, what I mean to say, level playing field should be ensured for each and every performer or actor in this process. Okay, and institutional pluralism or competition will lead to wide range of goods and services, and will also lead to reduction in price. This is assumed. So entrepreneurial government promotes competition among providers of goods and services. अपनी कंट्री में देख लो आज आप, हर सेक्टर में, इंश्योरेंस सेक्टर हो, टेलीकॉम सेक्टर हो, कहीं हर जगह कंपटीशन है. एज ए पार्ट ऑफ पॉलिसी वी हैव अलाउड मोर देन वन इंस्टीट्यूशंस, समटाइम्स पब्लिक एज वेल एज प्राइवेट. पब्लिक एजेंसीज भी हैं, प्राइवेट एजेंसीज, एंड दे आर कम्पीटिंग अगेंस्ट ईच अदर. टेलीकॉम सेक्टर में इस कॉम्पिटिशन से कितना फायदा हुआ है. डेटा सबसे सस्ता है इंडिया में, आप जानते होंगे. ठीक है, competition leads to this kind of price competitiveness. So wide range of goods and services and low prices. So entrepreneurial government believes in competition. Next is government treats citizens and customers and provide them citizens as customers and provide them with range of choices. So government treats citizens as customers. उसका मतलब क्या हुआ? When you treat citizens as customers, it means you are going for client-oriented approach. And client-oriented approach means that you take into consideration the likes, dislikes, and preferences of the people, and accordingly you design products and services. In this way, you become more relevant and you can maximize the utility for your people. Utility maximization can be achieved. Then you have a greater focus on earning money than spending. Do not celebrate and do not keep thumping desk all the time. Budget ke time dekhte ho, thumping of desk. My government has increased the allocation, for this subject matter 20% or 25% over and above the last year's estimate, something like this. So it is not so much of celebration of, it says that do not celebrate so much of spending. Rather you should celebrate more, the earning of money. आप उस पे ज़्यादा focus कीजिए, ठीक है? You take pride in devising ways and means to increase the income of the government, earning money rather than spending. Spending will take place, but should focus more on earning money. Then you have performance measure and evaluation. Normally it is not found, so well in public agencies. So lack of accountability, lack of transparency. When you don't have any standards, performance measures, you have not set the standard to measure the performance of the member or the employees or the officers there in public agencies, and that's why corruption takes place sometimes, or they fail to deliver the quality goods and services. So entrepreneurial government stands for performance measure and evaluation. Public agencies should develop result-oriented approach. Next is decentralized authority and promotion of participative management. Participative management is more horizontal than vertical. Participative, it means different, the functionaries in the organization occupying one other positions of authority and responsibility. They are constantly in touch with one another in more or less a kind of horizontal structure. Participative management. So you allow the different functionaries to participate in the decision-making process. That may widen the range of choices. Are getting a point? So that may also contribute to a better decision-making. Because when we talk about participative management, actually there's a philosophical side to it. What is that? That you give so much importance and you acknowledge the significance of collective wisdom and knowledge. Participative management, that there are people working at different level. As far as possible, they participate in the decision-making process. Structure is more horizontal. So you will have an opportunity to take a more balanced and better decision. Because we differ from one another. It is because of this reason that cooperation and better coordination and participation leads to a better decision-making process, better decision-making or better decisions. Because you may have certain limitations in one aspect and other person may have limitations in other aspect. We compensate for the deficiencies of one another, and finally we end up taking a decision which none of us could take individually or in individual capacity. This is the basic idea behind participative management. Instead of taking decision along vertical lines, 2 or 3 persons taking all decisions and they are implementing the thing, instead of that you have more a kind of horizontal structure. You have a participative management. Decisions are taken based on consensus, but sometimes there can be certain subject matters wherein decisions are taken at the top. There is no need of participation, exceptional situation. Otherwise, it is far more beneficial for the organization or any enterprise. Decentralized authority, promotion of participative management. You decentralize authority, you create more than one centers of decision making. Dispersal of authority means dispersal of authority facilitates dispersal of responsibility as well. So from different positions, responsibilities are discharged. It increases responsibilities are discharged. It increases your efficiency. It increases the level of responsiveness. And then it also creates an opportunity for the expression of human talent and creativity. Because different persons may specialize in different areas. It prepares a second line of leadership in any organization. Decentralized authority. Then you have preference to market mechanism over bureaucratic management and regulation. So entrepreneurial government, it believes less in one giant monolithic structure of bureaucracy looking after everything. Instead of that, you believe in competition, you believe in market mechanism. You have public agencies, you have private agencies, you have competition, and then you find the better goods and services are given to the society. So it believes in market mechanism, demand and supply factor, more than one institution competing against each other, rest of the things will fall in place. You just need to manage the things from above. It does not mean the government should withdraw. It means only this, that you allow more than one agencies to compete against one another, and you exercise vigilance from above. You set certain rules and regulations, keeping uppermost in mind the interest of society, interest of government, interest of environment, and then interest of the players. Then you have a market mechanism or bureaucratic management. Then you have proactive approach. I have discussed that you don't wait for the things to happen. You anticipate things which are likely to happen, and accordingly you prepare. Proactive approach and focus on process, not output only. Entrepreneurial government. It is just not enough to produce and deliver goods and services in super colossal quantity, collective provision for all. Instead of that, that will remain there, but focus is less on output, more on the process. They work on processual engineering. That it's not enough to produce. We have to produce with list of the cost and very high level of quality. So constantly you need to work on that. So do not take pride in terms of output, take pride in terms of process. You need to be more scientific. You need to avoid complacency. You need to keep devising ways and means to make the things still better. Something like this. This is entrepreneurial government. Finally, what I mean to say, there is a government, this is a model of government which has acknowledged a model of government which appreciates and acknowledges the principles of sustainable entrepreneurship and believes in applying those principles to public agencies to make them more professional, more efficient, and more relevant. I hope you got the point. Thank you.